I traveled 5 hours south along the coast of western Newfoundland to my next adventure in Gros Morne National Park. Cedric Davignon is my Parks Canada guide here.
Brandy, I'm taking you on a journey. We're visiting Tablelands, which are an incredible feature of this park. Big reason why this is a national park, why this is also a UNESCO site. This big mountain called the Tableland is actually a section of the Earth's mantle.
Wow, what does that mean, mantle?
Mantle is actually that section which is made out of magma, which is way down below the crust, a section on which we usually never ever walk. But here it's been exposed by continental collision, and it's possible to go and explore this mantle.
Wow, let's do it. This is wild.
Yes, it's just starting. All right, Brandy, let's step off the trail a bit. When you look at the main rock that forms the mountain, it's that big orange rock, but you know, it looks orange, but it's not. Flip it around and look. So the real color of that rock is a dark green, almost black. And the orangey color is only a very thin superficial layer on the outside. What's happening here? Rusting, oxidation. So these rocks are extremely rich in heavy metals, mostly iron, magnesium, but there's nickel, copper, chromium, cobalt, zinc, and very high density. So much that the rocks are rusting on their own, and so much that it's pretty much toxic rocks, because mantle comes from so deep, it's so dense, it's so rich in these heavy metals that rocks are rusting, vegetation is having a hard time. It's just the reality of the Earth's mantle. If you're a plant, it's not an easy place to live. Toxic soil, so a lot of heavy metal in the rocks, open landscapes, so you need to have strategies and adaptation, and that's a plant right here. That's a deciduous tree, a tree with leaves. That's dwarf birch, and you can see the tree is kind of twisted. The branches and the root system is horizontal. The Tableland is like an open-air art museum. Look at that, you can barely walk 20, 30 meters. You'll see a masterpiece like this big boulder. So sometimes it's rocks, sometimes it's plants. Wherever you walk, you'll see this beautiful garden paired with these masterpieces. And it's, you know, it's beautiful, and it's also so unique being the Earth's mantle.
This is beautiful. Amazing.
I told ya.
It reminds me of being on Mars or something.
Yeah, and actually, in some ways, you are.
Why?
This place is studied as a Mars analog site.
What does that mean?
It means that there's phenomena and processes that are happening here on the Tablelands that have also happened in the past on Mars. Okay, Brandy, so in this very specific pool for a few years, the CSA, Canadian Space Agency, and the NASA, both agencies worked together measuring with a little capsule. They were measuring the production of methane gas.
So why is this connected to Mars, though?
It's believed that there might have been life actually in these places down on Mars that were very similar mineralogically than the Tablelands. So similar type of rocks, similar type of processes are also on Mars, and by studying these places, basically we're kind of preparing the field work here on Tablelands and eventually trying it out on Mars.
Wow, it's beautiful.
Yeah, we're right here at the end of the Tableland Trail, facing this majestic canyon. We've just been walking on the Earth's mantle, one of the few places on Earth where you can do that. So important as a national park, important as a UNESCO site, but Gros Morne has so much more. There's so many interesting corners. In the north, you have a glacially carved valley. You go by boat, you see stunning cliffs. I wish you could explore as much as you can while you visit this very special corner of Canada.
Thank you so much, Cedric. I love your enthusiasm.
Oh, share and enjoy your adventures. Thank you for sharing Canada with us. Yeah.
To fully experience Gros Morne National Park, I traveled to western Brook Pond to take a boat cruise through the famous fjord which was formed by glaciers. Oscar Hatcher is a local skipper giving me a tour of the area. Oscar, what are we looking at?
Right now, Brandy, we're looking at it's a 10-mile, 16-kilometer freshwater fjord. The deepest part of the water, as we get in through between the cliffs up here, is around 575 feet, and the mountains range from 1,900 feet on the outside to 2,200 feet as we get back into the end of the fjord. In order to be classified as a true fjord, it's supposed to be filled with salt water. It's supposed to be an inlet from the salt water. As the glaciers passed out through millions of years ago, the ice gouged out those big valleys and took it right to the sea. This was a true fjord up to about 8,000 years ago. That's when, as the ice melted, the land rebounded, came back up, and it actually cut Western Brook Pond off from the sea. So right now, this is what we call a freshwater fjord.
Okay, I was a little bit confused when I first heard about this place because it's called a pond. And this looks a little bit bigger than ponds that I'm used to.
Yes, for the most part, the local people say it came from our English ancestry. Right, so pretty much everything in England was freshwater was referred to as a pond, and they brought that over here to Newfoundland, right? So pretty much everything in Newfoundland, freshwater, is referred to as a pond.
Each year, over 39,000 people take the 2-hour boat tour here. There is also an option to hike to the top of Western Brook Pond Gorge with a professional guide.
This is what we call Blue Denim Waterfall, right? And it gets its name. Sometimes throughout the day, you watch as the sun leaves its cast, you'll see the blue, like all blue cast on the bottom of the waterfall, all right? This is one of the highlights of the tour.
You want to jump in and just
You want to
wash your
jump in,
hair.
and yes, you do, it is. But it's fairly cold. The surface temperature today is maybe 11, 12 degrees, right? So it's fairly chilly.
So don't jump in.
Don't jump in. But do you see the colors?
Oh, yeah.
Right at the bottom, right? I want to draw your attention to the opposite side of the fjord over here. This is what we call a hanging valley, and that was developed by a small glacier, tributary glacier, that came down through and joined into the main Western Brook glaciers that passed through. And it carved out this big valley, and it looks like it's hanging in midair above the valley. Now this gives us a very good indication of what this fjord would actually look like with no water. You'll notice the steep sides, the vertical, the deep basin, and the steep mountains. You know, it'll give us something to compare it to, right?
Beautiful.
Today, boat trips like this one and tourism are filling a huge void in the economy. Cod fishing used to employ 30,000 people in rural Newfoundland until 1992, when the Canadian government shut down the fisheries in order for the cod stocks to rebuild. Today, the travel tourism industry is worth $1 billion. About half of the spending is from people outside of the province. Many people like Oscar depend on it to sustain them.
I'd just like to remind everybody that if you ever get a chance to come to Newfoundland, right, come to the western side of the island, visit Gros Morne National Park. We do have some awesome bays, inlets, fjords. If you get a chance, come and have a look. Right, you'll see some absolutely fabulous scenery, and you'll meet some nice people.
Oscar's right. Newfoundland and Labrador has so much to offer.